Our first speaker tonight, and we're very happy to have him, is Stephen Rohde. He's a constitutional lawyer, a lecturer, a writer, and a political activist. He's a past president of both the ACLU of Southern California and the Beverly Hills Bar Association, and is a founder of the Interfaith Communities United for Peace and Justice. He is the author of The American Words of Freedom, which explores the origins, history, and meaning of the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. His most recent book is A Freedom of Assembly, which is part of the American Rights series. He is also co-author of Foundations of Freedom, published by the Constitutional Rights Foundation, and has written numerous books and articles on civil liberties and constitutional history. Mr. Rohde received his BA degree in political science from Northwestern University in 1966 and his JD degree from Columbia Law School in 1969. He is a senior partner with the law firm of Rohde and Victoroff in Century City, specializing in communications.
First, they came for the Muslims, but I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Muslim. Then they came for immigrants, detaining them indefinitely, solely upon the certification of the Attorney General, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't an immigrant. Then they came to eavesdrop on suspects, consulting with their attorneys, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a suspect. Then they came to prosecute non-citizens before secret military commissions, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a non-citizen. Then they came to enter homes and offices for unannounced sneak and peek searches, and I didn't speak up because I had nothing to hide. Then they came to reinstate COINTELPRO and resume the infiltration and surveillance of domestic, political, and religious organizations, and I didn't speak up because I no longer belong to any organizations. Then they came to arrest American citizens and hold them indefinitely without any charges and without access to lawyers, and I didn't speak up because I would never be arrested. Then they came to institute TIPS, the Terrorism Information and Prevention System, recruiting citizens to spy on other citizens. And I didn't speak up because I would never be spied upon. Then they came to institute the Total Information Awareness System, collecting private data from every man, woman, and child in America. And I didn't speak up because I couldn't do anything about it. Then they came for immigrants and students from selected countries, luring them under the requirement of special registration as a ruse to seize them and detain them and fingerprint them. And I didn't speak up because I wasn't required to register. Then they came for anyone who objected to government policy because it only aided the terrorists and gave ammunition to America's enemies, and I didn't speak up because I didn't speak up. And then they came for me, and by that time, no one was left to speak up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a genuine pleasure to be with each one of you tonight. I'm very grateful for this introduction and this invitation. We come here tonight to talk about some very serious things. I think by now, from the nodding of heads and the signs of intelligent life, that many of you have heard in my opening remarks the echo of the words of the Reverend Martin Niemöller, speaking and writing in 1937. Martin Niemöller was a Protestant minister, an early supporter of the Nazi regime, changed his views, feared what he was seeing, was himself sent into a concentration camp from which he survived to write this poem. His version spoke of, first they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Catholics. Then they came for me. And by that time, no one was left to speak up. The words of Martin Niemöller have come down through the ages as a warning that when a government begins to move against those at the margins, those who are most suspect, those who are most despised by the wider community, if left unchecked, such a government will not stop there. It will move in ever wider circles, and as Reverend Martin Niemöller found, even as against him and those around him. And that is a cautionary tale. It's a tale that should be remembered in every age, but is rarely remembered. And surely today, the very fact that you're here, that you're activists, that you're engaged in these issues, that I dare say for at least the last 8 years, and surely for decades before that, have been involved in the struggle for peace and justice. But there are so many who are not here. Not here today, and not here metaphorically. There is a story of the frog. You drop a frog into a boiling pot of water and it will jump out immediately to save itself. But you drop the frog in a tepid bowl of water and slowly turn up the heat. And slowly but surely, the frog will boil to death. For so many people in this country. For so many people who have not begun to understand the assault on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, here, and human rights abroad. The heat is just being slowly turned up, imperceptibly, and they don't know what's going on around them. What I want to do tonight is set this in a historical context, much of which will be familiar to many of you. And then I want to come to the present time, the time we have to speak about exactly what is going on today, to speak about a man who must live not far from here, and who shamed America yesterday before the House Judiciary Committee. The ink was barely dry on the Bill of Rights in 1798 when the Alien and Sedition Acts were passed during the John Adams administration. Another time of fear of war with France. The Alien Acts, punishing outsiders, dissidents, aliens. And the Sedition Act, punishing the press when it had the audacity to criticize the John Adams administration and try to bring light to what was going on in that period when people were being jailed without charges, without lawyers. The Alien and Sedition Acts expired on the first day of the Thomas Jefferson administration and were never tested in court. But they mark a dark chapter in American history in the very time and in the very lives of the men who wrote the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment. They would so easily, fearful, fall into writing the Alien and Sedition Act. We come down to the Civil War. And there's a theme. A great American president, Abraham Lincoln, suspended the writ of habeas corpus. And we'll talk about the writ of habeas corpus today. The writ of habeas corpus, the right to be brought before a court when all other appeals have been exhausted, the right to challenge your incarceration, a right so important it was written into the body of the U.S. Constitution, even before we got our Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. And it was provided for in Article 1 that the writ of habeas corpus could not be suspended except in time of invasion and insurrection, and that it was for Congress to do so.